In this video, we're going to talk about Punnett squares, and Punnett squares are used to help predict the probability of different genetic outcomes. There's a few steps to follow for all of the Punnett square problems that you can ever face. The first step is to identify the genotypes of the parents. So to be able to use vocabulary words like heterozygous and homozygous dominant or homozygous recessive or purebred, whatever, and actually relate that and convert that into a genotype, whatever that genotype may be. The second step is to list all the possible gametes that each parent can make. So in this guy right here, we know that Mendel's law of segregation says that alleles for the same gene can't be in the same gamete. So we'd have a gamete with a big B allele in it and another gamete with a little b allele in it. The third step is to set up the Punnett square with the gametes on the outside first, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment. 4, fill in the Punnett square, so actually run it and see what all the gamete combinations could be. 5 is to determine the genotypic ratio from the Punnett square. 6 is after we got the Punnett square made and the genotypic ratio taken care of, we're going to figure out the phenotypic ratio. And last but not least, answer any questions if it applies to that particular problem. Sometimes they just ask you to run the Punnett square, sometimes they'll ask you to run the Punnett square and then answer a problem. So here's an example for a monohybrid cross. Here we have brown hair is dominant to blonde hair. And we're going to say that big H is equal to brown hair and little h for blonde. Okay, the father is heterozygous and the mother is homozygous recessive. And then it asks, what is the probability that the couple could have a child with blonde hair? So remember, the first step is to figure out the genotype of the parents. Well, for each genotype, we're dealing with a monohybrid cross, so we know that means one gene, and we have 2 alleles for every gene. So the first parent has 2 alleles for the gene, and the second parent has 2 alleles for the gene. We said the father is heterozygous, so that would be 1 dominant allele, 1 recessive allele, 1 of each or opposite. And then the mother is homozygous recessive. Remember that homo means the same and recessive, so both alleles are recessive. Next step is to figure out the gametes that each parent could make. Well, the big H can be in an allele and in a gamete, and the little h can be in a gamete. So those are the 2 gametes for this parent. The other parent gametes would look like that. So the third step is to take care of the outside of the Punnett square. So if we were to draw our box or our square for the Punnett square, we're going to put the gametes for the first parent on top of the square. We're going to put the gametes for the second parent on the side of the square. Then we can fill in our lines, and we're ready for the fourth step, which is to fill in the Punnett square. So here we got big H, little h, big H, little h, little h, little h, little h, little h. Step 4 done. Step 5 was to determine the genotypic ratio from the Punnett square. So what I like to do is always start up here in the top left-hand box. And the first genotype that we see right here is big H, little h. And we have 2 of those. So we had a total of 2 big H, little h. Then I just go to the next one. So that would be little h, and there's 2 of them. So our genotypic ratio is 2 to 2. Notice that I labeled the genotypes underneath the number of each one. So then let's do the phenotypic ratio, step 6. Okay, so then we know that if we have a big H and a small h, that the big H is dominant, and that's brown. So both of these individuals would have brown hair. We have 2 of those. And these individuals would have blonde hair. And we have 2 of those. So there's our phenotypic ratio. Our last step is to answer any questions. So what is the probability that the couple could have a child with blonde hair? So if we look at the phenotypic ratio, there's 2 of a possible 4, so 2 out of 4, or a 50% chance that this couple could have a child with blonde hair. So that's an example for a monohybrid cross. So now we're going to do a dihybrid cross example, and di means 2, so we're working with 2 genes. Brown hair is dominant to blonde hair, so we're going to use the big H and little h that we used from the last example. But here our second gene is short is dominant to tall, so we're going to say that big A is for the dominant short allele, and little a is for the recessive tall allele. So the father's heterozygous for both, mother's homozygous recessive for height, and heterozygous for hair color. What is the probability that the couple could have a child with blonde hair and is tall? So just like before, this first step is the same. We go P equals parents of we got to figure out the genotypes of the parents. So we know that dad is going to have 2 alleles for hair color and 2 alleles for height. We know mom's going to have 2 alleles for hair color and 2 alleles for height. So the father is heterozygous for both traits. So heterozygous for hair color, heterozygous for height. And mom is homozygous recessive for height. Okay, so here we put height as the second gene. So over here, we're not going to start out with that. We're going to put it in the same spot. We started with the H's for hair color here, so we're going to keep these as hair color. And so homozygous recessive for height, that would be little a. So the same and recessive for both traits, or for both alleles. And heterozygous for hair color, mom is. So heterozygous for hair color. So we got the genotypes of the parents. Now we got to find step 2, which is the different gametes that each parent can make. So we know from Mendel's law of segregation that the H's can't be in the same gamete. But Mendel's law of independent assortment says that the big H can go with the big A. So that is a possibility. So that one. But this is also a possibility as well, where the big H can go with the little a. The small h can go with the big A. And the small h can go with the small a. So there's all the possible gametes for dad. Let's figure them out for mom. So again, these two can't go together due to Mendel's law of segregation, as these two can't. But the big H with that little a, or with that one. Small h with that small a, and this and that. So now we got our gametes taken care of for both parents. It's time to do step 3, which is do all of the outside of the Punnett square. We put our gametes from the first parent along the top, like so, and then we'll put all of the gametes from the second parent along the side. And fill in our lines. And now all we got to do is go through and fill in the square. So here, we started the whole thing out with H's being first, so throughout everything that we do, the H's are going to stay first. So here we would have big H, big A, little a. Here, big H, little a. Big H, small h, big A, little a. Big H, little a, little a. So now that you kind of see it, I'm just going to fast forward it real quick. I'll be with you in a moment. So now steps 4 is done, so we got that taken care of. And we'll go to the next one, which is our genotypic ratio. Just like before, we're going to start off in the top left-hand corner, and we're going to go whatever is there. So there's 1, 2, there's 2 of those. Go to the next one. okay, right here. And there's one, two of those. And we go to our next one right here. So this one's big H, big A, little a. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. We got 4 of those. So now that you kind of see how we're working, I'm going to go ahead and fill out the rest one. I'll catch up with you in a second. So now we got our genotypic ratio done, 2 to 2 to 4 to 4 to 2 to 2. And notice I have the exact labels of each genotype underneath each number. So we can go back and refer to it later if we need to. Teacher doesn't have to yell at you, and you got everything perfectly labeled. And you also notice that you go back and I put a little tick in each one that I counted, so I know I got all 16 possibilities. So now we're ready for step 6, which is our phenotypic ratio. So here, this individual would have brown hair and be short. So that's one of our possible phenotypes, brown and short. So there's 2 brown and shorts. They're not. They are. So brown and short. So now we got 6. Nope, nope, nope. So there's 6 brown and shorts. And so I got that one taken care of, and I took care of that one as well. Okay, so then this guy would be brown and tall. Okay, so that's our next possibility, brown and tall. So let's see, that's brown and tall, there's 2. Those are brown and tall as well. So that's it. So we got 6 of those. So we got that guy taken care of. They're brown and tall. They're brown and tall. So then what's our next one? We got all those taken care of. So then that would be blonde and short. So we got blonde and short, and there's 2 of those. That's it. Okay, so we got that guy taken care of. We had 2 of them. And then last but not least is this guy, which would be blonde and tall. Blonde and tall, and there's the only thing left, so we had 2 of them, and put a star next to it to make sure we got all of them taken care of. Last but not least, we got to go back and check the problem. What is the probability that the couple could have a child with blonde hair and tall? Well, blonde hair and tall is this guy right here. So that's 2 out of a possible 16. So we'd have 2 out of 16, or 12.5%. So as you can see, no matter whether it's a monohybrid cross or a dihybrid cross, if you keep doing the same steps all the time, you're always going to get the right answer. And that is all she wrote.
It's like this and like that and like this and it's like that and like this and like that and it's like this. So just chill till the next episode.